This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. When you feel like your best, fam, you can do anything. You can accomplish all those goals in your life, make sure your family's good, and even start, who knows, a mildly successful podcast. Sometimes life gets you bogged down. You might feel overwhelmed. You're not showing up every day the way that you want to. But working with a therapist can help you get closer to the best version of you. Because when you feel empowered, you're more prepared to take on everything that life throws at you. The benefits of therapy are endless. It's great to just check in with somebody who can give you some perspective on life. Make sure that you're meeting all the goals that you've set for yourself in life. So whether or not you've been in therapy, now could be the time to give BetterHelp a shot. It's convenient, flexible, affordable, and entirely online. Just fill out their brief questionnaire. You get matched with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Couldn't be easier. If you want an empowered life, therapy can get you there. So visit BetterHelp.com/madaboutmovies today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/madaboutmovies.
Hello?
Mrs. Featherbottom?
Hello?
No? Mrs. Featherbottom?
How did you know? How did you know?
Ladies and gentlemen, make yourself a cup of coffee. I'm Kent Garrison.
I'm Brian Gill.
And I'm Richard Barden.
And this is Mad
About
Movies.
Da, 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 da. You sound insane. You realize that? The whole world got crazy! Seriously? It's showtime.
Mad About Movies is an hour-long conversation concerning all things cinema. First half of the show, we discuss movie news, movie rumors, and of course, movie rumblings, and talk about what's currently piquing our interest in Hollywood. For the second half of the show, we go over our chosen movie of the week and give you our review. But be warned, we will go over detailed plot spoilers. As an added bonus, please stay tuned to the end of each episode for our weekly recommend segment, in which we each suggest something that you need to check out as soon as possible. This week, we are focusing our efforts on what, Brian?
J.J. Abrams' Star Trek Into Darkness.
You think you can't make mistakes? But the choices you make could get yourself and everyone under your command killed. But I believe in you, Jim. Darkness is coming.
This could just be the beginning.
Beginning of what? All-out war.
Now, shall we begin?
Dun, 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 dun. That's all I had.
Perfect.
I just had that to add. So yeah, Star Trek Into Darkness. Can't wait to review this one. So let's get movie news and movie rumors and movie rumblings over with, shall we?
Don't forget the rumblings.
I didn't. Of course, I would never. Richard, anything you want to mention for movie news?
Movie news. We've got a couple things starting to stack up for summer 15.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed was officially announced, which will unfortunately not be starring Corey Wynn, but instead Michael Fassbender. But Corey is going to be a contributor to it because he knows the canon so well.
Right.
That's exciting though. Like that
could be a
if
cool
anyone
story.
could play that. I mean, it's him. You know that.
Yeah.
That's actually really intriguing.
Right. But right now it's pitted to go up against Star Wars that weekend, which there's no way they stick to that.
And Avengers 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Is 2015 as well. So.
No, yeah, but they were talking actual weekend.
Oh, same weekend. Wow.
So
yeah, I imagine by the time that actually rolls around, there will be no other movies opening that weekend.
Yeah. That's exciting, though. I was actually going to mention that. I was going to get y'all's thoughts. I didn't know if you guys have played Assassin's Creed or not. I definitely am aware of it. I haven't played it very much, so I don't want listeners to not listen to the podcast because I don't play Assassin's Creed and I act like it. I don't play it. I'm really intrigued by the movie, however. So that being said, hopefully, is there a director announced?
I don't believe so, but we'll see. I think it'd be a cool Ridley Scott movie. There's a few people I could see doing it well. I haven't played Assassin's Creed, but I've watched Corndog play it quite a bit. Because I actually like the narrative of just the game.
Yeah.
So the movie sounds really cool. There's a lot of historical stuff in it.
I heard all the assassinations are real assassinations that took place.
Yeah.
They're not just made up, like all the ones in the storyline or whatever. So
Yeah.
that's kind of interesting.
So I think
it's only a matter of time until we get a Call of Duty movie, guys.
yeah.
We already
So
did.
does
It's
The
called
Rock
Saving
go ahead
Private
and get
Ryan.
that made, or?
Yeah,
Yes.
they're actually making a couple movies. They're doing a World of Warcraft movie too. I heard. I think 2015 that might be coming out too. So it seems like the Resident Evil movies have still proven to Hollywood that despite it being bad, you can still make money.
Well,
off these
the
video game
aforementioned
properties.
Corey still sees every one of them. So
Yeah, exactly. They're definitely there's definitely an audience for them. I've been waiting still for the Halo movie. That's been long awaited and rumored. I think that if that's done right, that could be
Beyonce
awesome.
song.
Yeah, let me see your Halo.
That's gonna be good.
Can't wait for that. Anything else, Richard? Movie news?
That's all I really have. It's kind of slow right now that movies are coming out.
Yeah.
Like Brian said, a lot of stuff coming out of Cannes or Cannes. It changes every year.
Right.
So it's kind of
James Caan hasn't given us any movie news lately.
James Caan hasn't done much, but
Early news out of Cannes reporting that the new Coen Brothers film is awesome.
yeah,
So that's a surprise.
yeah.
The trailer looks great.
Yeah, it does. I'm eagerly awaiting that one.
Yeah, and I love Dave Van Ronk, who that was based on. It's one of my favorite kind of historical people from the '60s. So I'm pumped about a movie kind of based on him. And I love the Coens, and I love folk. I love Greenwich Village folk music. So
Yeah.
it's all in my wheelhouse, man. I'm pumped for that. Do we have a release date on that, or is it going to be kind of just a gradual spread throughout the fall?
It gets December.
I think it's
6th. I think
it's
is
Christmas
the open,
time, I think.
and then it's December 20th is wide release, something like
Okay.
that. I can look that up, but I think that's right.
Man, I'm excited for that one. A few things I
Coen
wanted to.
Brothers make so many great movies. It's really confounding when they don't, and they don't sometimes. Sometimes they make really bad movies too. But it's not like normally you have
Like
people
Burn
that
After Reading was probably their weakest.
Yeah, and the what was the one with Billy Bob, Intolerable Cruelty?
Total Cruelty.
Yeah.
It's odd that they can make such quantity of great movies in so many different genres, but still 1 out of every 4 is terrible. So interesting.
Yeah. I'm very excited for that. Let's talk about some movies that have already come out. It just announced this week that Iron Man has already passed $1 billion. Iron Man 3.
Crazy.
It's already made more money than the first 2 movies combined.
Wow.
It sits at number 9 all time as far as box office.
Wow.
So when it's all said and done, it'll probably be in the top 5, I would think. Because I mean, it's just now to the point where people want to get out and actually maybe see it. You know, where you don't have to fight a crowd. So I think it's going to do very well for the remainder of the summer. So is Iron Man, and we'll talk a little bit more about Batman here in a second, but is Iron Man now officially the biggest superhero movie franchise ever? Brian Gill?
Not for me personally, but I mean, as far as box office totals go, you could definitely make that case. I think the best thing about Iron Man, the Iron Man franchise, is that it's super rewatchable. Maybe not the best thing, but one of the best things. It's very rewatchable. You can pop in Iron Man or Iron Man 2 and soon Iron Man 3 at any time and enjoy that 2 hours of your life without getting super invested in what's happening. I don't watch the Nolan Batman trilogy super frequently because it's such an engrossing universe that I have trouble concentrating on anything else while I'm watching that. So whereas Iron Man is just pure fun most of the time. So maybe that's, I mean, in some ways they're totally different franchises, even though they're both superhero movies, you know?
Yeah. I heard news this week also that Downey is down. He's talked to Shane Black, and Shane Black says that Downey is a go to do Iron Man 4 if they want to do it. That he has agreed to do it. And Joss Whedon has said that he will return for Avengers 2. So we at least have those to look forward to. But it'll be interesting to see You know, how it pans out. I'm sure they'll pay him a ton of money, but I think that money is totally justified. You know?
Oh, yeah.
$1 billion in what, under a month? 3.5 weeks? Just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, more Avengers news I wanted to mention. Whedon has said that Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, two kind of smaller characters, will be in the Avengers 2, a brother and sister. But they're not going to, like, be Avengers, I guess. But they're going to be in the movie. I don't exactly know how it's going to work, but leave it to Whedon to make it work. And also that the actor who played Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner, will be recast.
Oh, wow. I hadn't heard that.
So thoughts on that?
Rough couple years for Jeremy Renner. I think we watched that shooting star burn out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me because he was pretty unhappy with his treatment, I guess, in the Avengers, just because that wasn't, I guess he said that wasn't the character he signed on to play or whatever.
Yeah. He was upset that half the movie his eyes were like dilated.
Yeah.
He couldn't even act because his eyes were like destroyed by the Tesseract.
Well,
so,
Richard has said stuff about Jeremy in the past. I don't know, Richard, if you want to talk about his lack of movie stardom, or if you want me to summarize.
He's not a bad actor. He's charismaless. He has zero charisma on screen. Yeah. No screen presence.
One of the worst hosts of SNL of all time, too.
Yeah,
just
really bad.
Really bad.
So he to me is a very good kind of number 3. I thought he was fine in the Mission Impossible movie. But that's with the screen presence of Tom Cruise, so he can kind of just be on the side. But he, as we saw with the Bourne, whatever that was, Legacy, he's not a movie star make. Does Jeremy Renner?
Yeah, he belongs in smaller movies like The Hurt Locker, or as the second or third, as you said, supporting character in stuff like The Town. I mean, he's great in The Town. That's one of my. I mean, he's incredible in that movie. But since then, it's been pretty rough. So Hansel and Gretel really didn't do it for anybody. So
yeah, I agree. I'm not really a Renner fan. I really enjoyed him in The Hurt Locker, though. He was great in that movie. Some other stuff I wanted to mention for movie news. And we can talk about this now because this pertains to our Into Darkness conversation. J.J. Abrams is in the movies a lot these past few weeks because he's been promoting Into Darkness, and he's also been getting a million questions, of course, about Episode 7. So this week, a Forbes, I believe, article came out that said that J.J. Abrams wasn't happy with how the rights have been handled for Star Trek because basically Paramount owns the rights to the J.J. Abrams movie version of Star Trek, but CBS still owns the rights to the original series. So as far as merchandising, CBS kept pushing out all this vintage Star Trek merchandise. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And Paramount had a very minimal merchandising push with J.J. Abrams' new Star Trek series. So Abrams' complaint was that the entire market was saturated with every series of Star Trek. Do you know what I mean? So no fan could ever grasp on to either the new version or the old version. They're just throwing it all at you at once. So rumor is that he was going to step away, not do Star Trek 3, and focus on Star Wars because of how great, Disney. All the rights were bought, straight up for Star Wars. Disney owns everything. It's going to be all in-house, and they're saying that Abrams is even going to get a cut of the merchandising for Episode 7. So you see, like, these Marvel films coming out have done an amazing job at pushing the merchandise out there. I mean, Iron Man stuff is everywhere you see. I mean, everywhere you look. I went yesterday to Walmart, and I didn't see one Star Trek Into Darkness anything. No toys in the toy aisle. No, they weren't. I couldn't even find the Star Trek Blu-ray of the original movie.
Yeah,
because I was going to buy it for my dad who hadn't seen it. So it's just really disappointing that so much potential is being wasted here on this franchise. So, what are your thoughts on that?
No, if he can get a piece of the Star Wars merchandising industry, then he can finally stop making so many TV shows and movies because he'll just be richer than rich. I mean, that's one of the strokes of genius of George Lucas, was figuring out licensing and merchandising before that was really a big thing, and holding on to those rights. That was a big part of that that movie you recommended a couple weeks ago, Kent, the People versus George Lucas. They talked about how he negotiated to hold on to those rights. But yeah, you're right. They've not done anything pushing Star Trek beyond beyond just the trailers and the commercials and things like that. There's not a lot of merchandising out there, and so that that's got to be frustrating for a guy like JJ that is pouring his heart and soul into a movie and making a ton of money for the studio and not seeing it get the promotion that it deserves.
Yeah, totally agree. It's a little disappointing too, because today we're starting to see the effects of that. Iron Man 3 made what, 180 million or something.
Yep.
Its first week. Star Trek numbers just came in, $70 million.
Wow.
So that's a huge loss, I would say, as far as expectations were around 80 or 90. And I thought it was going to break 100 for sure.
Yeah, geez, 70 million. That's
yeah.
I'd seen earlier in the day that it was but it did do the 4-day thing, so that helps it a little bit. It'll do 100 million, but it'll be over the 4 days. But still, that's not anywhere close to what Iron Man was doing, and I'm surprised by that. I think I texted you guys because early projections on Star Trek like a month ago were in the 70 to 80 range, and I texted both of you guys and said, if I could bet on that, I would definitely take. That's easy money. This is totally going to crack 100 million. Yeah. And I would have lost money on that. So that's a surprising thing, and you're right, Kent, that probably, I would say at least some of that plays directly into that lack of exposure and merchandising and whatnot.
Yeah, totally. One more thing I want to mention for movie news, unless you guys got anything else, is this past week I attended a screening of a great little film that is coming out of Hollywood pretty soon, at the beginning of June. It stars two American treasures. One friend of Richard and I's radio show, The Kent and Richard Show, Mr. Owen Wilson.
Yes.
And the other being Mr. Vince Vaughn. This movie is called The Internship.
Wedding Crashers 2, right?
And it was incredible. What a delight. No, this movie was just torture. You guys can interview me about it. Go ahead.
All right. On a scale of 9 to 10, what would you rank this movie?
On the internet, I want to say, immediately after screening this movie, I started a thread on Reddit that all it said was, I just got out of a screening of The Internship, and it was really awful, basically what I said. It immediately was upvoted to the front page. There was over 500 comments in 2 days of people arguing about whether it was going to be good or bad, and nobody would take my word for it that it was bad. Like, nobody would. And somebody asked my rating, and I said a 1.4 out of 10. And they go, not a 1.3? And I was like, no, I'm a little bit superstitious. So, not a 1.3. 1.4 is my score, Richard. It is as bad as they come. I mean, it's just a horrible, like... It felt like a Nickelodeon movie, what I was watching here. It really honestly felt like that, mixed in with, like, a lot of adult humor. You know what I mean? It's like, has the tone of a Disney Channel film or Nickelodeon movie, but it's just so poorly done. The whole time I was watching it, I was like, this movie reminds me of something. A little film starring one of our favorites, Rainn Wilson, called The Rocker. Are you familiar?
Yeah.
This movie is directed by the same guy as The Rocker. I didn't know that until I got out of the movie, but I was like, this is The Rocker, with none of the catchy songs and none of the funny moments whatsoever.
And no Teddy Geiger.
Characters that you hate, yeah. Like, at least Emma Stone was in The Rocker, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. This movie was, like, so bad. Everyone is bad in this movie. Every single person.
Yeah,
and
sort of disappointing.
Basically one giant Google ad. I mean...
Yeah.
They name literally every product that Google makes in this movie at some point, you know?
Peacock.
Password Peacock. But there's one point in the movie, and it's the climax of the movie, believe it or not, where Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn have to serve as customer service reps for Google. So people are calling them with complaints. I'm not kidding. In the movie, the line is used. It goes a little something like this. Well, ma'am, it doesn't look like your device is compatible with Google Play. How can I help you with that? That was a line from the film.
Wow.
So that's the kind of stuff you can expect from this movie. It was not good at all.
It looks horrible, and it looks like it was written in 2005.
Yeah.
I mean, all of the bits from the trailer were just like, well, but that's not even kind of close. It's not even kind of close to relevant. I don't. It's awful. It looked awful to me. So I'm glad to hear you say. Of the two movies that you have gotten advanced screenings to in the last couple weeks and then reviewed, I am still I'm so much more interested in seeing Now You See Me than The Internship, and I was from the beginning, and I still remain that way. The Internship looks horrible.
So if The Internship's a 1.4, Kent, what would you give Now You See Me?
Oh man, I mean they're just as bad as each other, but they're totally different genres. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If The Internship is a 1.4, I give Now You See Me a solid 1.2 or something. Okay. You know, like they're neck and neck right there, just in the pit of cinema like scum. So unfortunately, those of you who are listening who are eagerly awaiting the Mad About Movies episode on The Internship might not happen until later, maybe when we can screen it for free again. But I think
at least those two movies come out on back-to-back weekends, so quality family entertainment for everybody.
Absolutely. Anything else you guys want to mention for movie news before we move on?
I got nothing,
Richard?
as usual.
That's all I got.
Hey, what's up, ma'am fam? Kent here. And yes, if you're hearing from me, you know it's time to talk about Blue Apron. If you haven't tried out Blue Apron by now, what the heck are you even doing? Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. They deliver fresh meals straight to your door. All the food is fresh, it's sourced from local farms, and there's no wasted ingredients. I've been a Blue Apron subscriber for a long time now, and they have still, to this day, never let me down. There's tons of variety. Some featured upcoming meals include summer vegetable and egg paninis, soy glazed pork and rice cakes, skillet vegetable chili with cheddar drop biscuits, holy crap, and garlic butter shrimp and corn with green bean salad. So take it from me. Try out Blue Apron now. Go to blueapron.com/mad. That's blueapron.com/mad. Get 3 meals on us for free. Nothing goes better with a movie than dinner. So check out Blue Apron. blueapron.com/mad. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. Hey, ma'am, fam, question for you. Do you own a small business, or are you a boss? Are you looking to hire awesome people, but you just can't find somebody to fill that role? Well, let me tell you about ZipRecruiter.com. With ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to 100+ job sites, all with one click. In fact, over 80% of jobs posted on ZipRecruiter get a qualified candidate in just 24 hours. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. That's why ZipRecruiter is different. Unlike other job sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them. Right now, you can post your jobs for free on ZipRecruiter by going to ZipRecruiter.com/mad. That's ZipRecruiter.com/mad. One more time, try it for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/mad. Thanks to ZipRecruiter for supporting this episode of the Mad About Movies podcast. Let's talk about Star Trek Into Darkness.
We're outnumbered, outgunned.
I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. I only know what I can do.
All right. Brian Gill. I saw this movie on premiere day. It was actually released on a Thursday instead of a Friday. They pushed it back, I think, a week before time. Not a lot of people knew that, I don't think. So I caught a matinee on Thursday, and in 3D, and then immediately caught a matinee in 2D back to back. Really great experience. I was really excited when I got out to tell you guys how much I enjoyed it. And Brian, you were the next person to see it. So why don't you start us off and give us your overall thoughts of Star Trek Into Darkness?
In a sentence, I loved it. I very rarely see a movie and then have that same impulse that you just described, Kent, of I want to go right back in and watch this again. I'm usually content to see the movie in the theater and then wait till it comes on DVD and watch it again.
Honestly, Brian, I'll tell you, I walked out of my theater, looked to my right, turned my head right, and looked up, and it was playing in the theater next to mine. I walked out of my theater at 3:57. The next screening was at 4:05, right next door. I was like, too tempting to pass up. So I was like, I got nothing to do, so I did it again, and it was just as glorious the second time, and it really
obviously you went and paid for a ticket first. I would assume.
Absolutely, totally, yeah. So go ahead, Brian.
No, it was everything that I wanted it to be. I think that the J.J. Abrams' first Star Trek from 2009 is that's one of the most rewatchable movies, in my opinion, ever. I watched it. I've probably watched that movie 24 times over the last 3 or 4 years, and I really don't do that very often. I'm not somebody who usually, if I'm going to watch something that I've seen a bunch of times, I just rewatch reruns of The Office or things like that. I don't usually watch the movies dozens and dozens and dozens of times, but I do with Star Trek. And I love the way that he reinvigorated that franchise, the way that he paid homage to the original series and the original movies, but still created something new for himself, for the franchise, for the fans. And I felt like this was just another extension of that same philosophy. And the way that he made that first movie. It's exciting, it's fun, it's fast paced. There's very little downtime. And I loved it. I want to see it many more times.
As do I. Richard Barton, you just got out of this screening less than an hour ago. So give us your thoughts, your fresh thoughts.
I loved it. I thought it was an immensely watchable movie. Abrams does a great job of really carrying the plot along in the most efficient way. You don't feel there's really any wasted moments in the movie. There's some unexpected twists. There's some ambiguity with certain characters' intentions throughout the movie. There's a lot of devices, countdowns and different things that Star Trek always relies on to kind of create suspense, and they're all executed very well. There's some great performances in it. Chris Pine is an incredible Captain Kirk. I don't know if he can do anything else, but he's a great Captain Kirk. He's tons of charisma. Zachary Quinto is the perfect Spock. Benedict Cumberbatch, which was going to be my name before my parents opted for Richard Montel Barton. But he was fantastic. Very, very few complaints about the movie. Just a really enjoyable couple hours. Perfect amount of highbrow and lowbrow mixture. Really enjoyed it.
Sweet. What really stuck out to me about this movie was much more than the first film. It really felt like an episode of Star Trek, the original the show. They're sort of throwing you into this world here. The first movie kind of did a great job of laying the groundwork, introducing the characters. It was a much more bright film, I should say, than I expected, and really only featured one big action sequence that I can remember. The one with them kind of skydiving into Vulcan. But this movie, it was a solid action movie, I felt like, and they didn't give you much character development, and I really feel bad for anyone who hadn't seen the first Star Trek that came and saw this. I mean, they're really throwing you into that world. They're not spending a lot of time with dialogue. They, say for Captain Kirk, for instance, they only have like one shot of him with the two alien chicks in bed or whatever, and then all he does is sit up and walk out of the room, because that's all you need to do to get across the point of this guy's personality. Do you know what I mean? They didn't spend a lot of time, developing these characters, and I thought it was awesome. I mean, it really gives you more time to tell a story. I thought the story was great. I loved Cumberbatch. I mean, that guy does no wrong. I mean, seriously, he's going to be the biggest star, like, for a long time. Carl Urban. Man, I freaking love Carl Urban in this role, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I cannot get enough. Like, if they did a movie of just Captain Kirk and Bones, I would love that. You know, they're so great. Damn it, man, I'm a doctor, not a torpedo technician.
Right.
So good. His delivery on everything was awesome. I love the cast. This movie really, it gave me all those moments that I wanted. I mean, it gave every character more stuff to do than the original. You know what I mean? It's like every character had a big role in this movie, more so than just Kirk and Spock. So those are my initial impressions. So
yeah. I think you're exactly right about the character development and the plotting and whatnot. It's not as strong as the first Star Trek was in those departments, but it doesn't need to be. It's not. We're at a point where I think everybody understands the concept of franchise movies and franchise films, and so you need to see the previous movie to be able to watch the new movie and really enjoy it. And that's just, I feel like that's an understood thing across all of movie watching society at this point, and if it's not, it should be. We don't need to waste time setting up the characters again when 95% of the audience already knows all this stuff, you know? It's the same as like in a book. Anytime I read a series of books, if there's, you know, past the first book, if there's any kind of backstory or track back of, you know, here's what took place, I skip it. I don't read any of that stuff. And it's the same with these movies. It's like, we don't need any of this. Let's just jump right into where we left off. And that's exactly what it does. So I don't think it's nearly as strong from a dialogue standpoint, and the plot is very simplistic. Yeah. Whereas I think it's a little more complicated in the first movie. But that's okay. Like it worked just fine without a sophisticated, complex plot and crazy, tons of time spent on developing dialogue.
Yeah, Damon Lindelof was actually a writer on this, and it didn't have 1,000 plot holes like all his other work. So the fact that I came out of this somewhat satisfied with how things got wrapped up at the end was a win. Definitely a win. Sure. Richard, what do you think about the cast?
I love the cast. Like I said, I love Chris Pine and Quinto. I think they're kind of needle and haystack finds for those parts. I love Zoe Saldana. No, all the way through. Carl Urban, Simon Pegg, Harold. I don't know his name. Sorry.
John Cho.
John Cho. Pardon me. John Cho and Anton Yelkin.
Right.
Are all fantastic. I mean,
let's not forget Alice Eve, Richard.
Oh, how could I?
Alice Eve. Bruce Greenwood too, also great.
Yeah. Love Bruce Greenwood. Yeah.
So it was a really fun movie. Like Brian said, it kind of knew what it was. You're expected to have seen the first one, and that's okay to ask an audience to see a first in a series. I think that's, like Brian said, a lot more understood now and expected now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really, really liked that. I thought it was the perfect follow up. I can't wait for the third one. Brian,
what was some of your favorite parts, just off the top of your head?
Without getting into the spoilery stuff, which we should definitely hold for later. I loved the intro, the kind of the cold open almost of that reset. It kind of reset where the characters are at. If you hadn't watched Star Trek since it came out in theaters, it kind of gave you a glimpse right back into to what these characters are all about, and then let's get started. Let's get this going. I thought that was a great way to do that. I again, without doing the spoiler stuff, I enjoyed vindictive Captain Kirk. I think that's one of his greater traits in the series and in the original set of films. And so I enjoyed having that be a part of it, trying to exact revenge. And I as you guys said, the cast in these movies are great, and the way that but it's not just how great they are as actors and how well they adapt to the characters, which is a big part of it. But the chemistry that they show between Spock and Kirk and Kirk and McCoy, and on down the list is spectacular. And I love the way that is put together in both of these movies. It was just so nice to be reminded of that, I guess, in this film. I loved seeing that stuff. And I love Simon Pegg. His portrayal of Scotty is one of my favorite parts of this series, and I love the way that he did his bit this time around, for sure.
Totally agree. I felt very strong about the cast the first time around. I felt great about the cast this time around. Leaving.
Yeah.
It felt so natural. You've really felt like these characters had been gone for 4 years, but they were still, out in space somewhere. Spock looked much older, much more mature. It was just a more adult movie, I felt, all around than the first one. And I feel like this movie definitely appeals to, I would say, a more broad audience than the first one, too. I mean, this is just it's a well-paced, very well-paced action movie.
Oh, definitely. Not a wasted frame.
Not a wasted frame at all. It's so tightly wound. The only move, I think, is to maybe have the Alice Eve character in there. Not really any of the plot points revolve around her that are that important, but I understand them having to set up a love interest for Captain Kirk for future movies.
Yeah, and she plays a big part. She's a part of the Star Trek universe. Later on down the line, and so not just as a love interest, but she's a big part of the Wrath of Khan, and so depending upon what JJ's trying to set up for the future. I'm with you. I didn't think that her part was that great, but I feel like that's what we normally can expect from a setup character like that. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think it was appalling. I just felt like, well, she's there to serve a purpose later on down the road.
Yeah. What did you think of the overall look of the movie? How did your eye react to it, Brian?
I thought it was beautiful. I had to see it in 3D, which I didn't. I thought the 3D added nothing, but I feel that way with almost every 3D movie, so that's not, that's probably not even I'm certainly biased in that opinion. I personally love the way J.J. Abrams shoots movies. I know he gets a lot of crap for lens flares, and I know some people consider his style to be all style, no substance, which I think is garbage, but I personally really like the way that he shoots a movie. I like the way that I feel like this was a great example of the way that a director can use colors and contrast and whatnot to emphasize tone and mood. Because I think you mentioned the first movie is very bright, and that's the tone that the movie takes. This movie is much darker. And much more adult oriented, and that I think that shows just in the style with which he shot. It's
almost as if they trekked into darkness.
yeah, you'd think so. Yeah. But no, I think I thought that it's a gorgeous movie. I'm very biased in favor of JJ, so maybe it was total crap, and I'm just I just love it. But I really appreciate the way that he shoots a movie, and this is certainly no different.
Yeah, I felt exactly like you felt, Brian. If you go back and listen to our Iron Man 3 review, we made the comment, I think we all felt that the third act was a little too overwhelming for a general cinematic experience. This time, watching Into Darkness, I didn't feel like that at all. I didn't feel like they outdid themselves at any point in the movie. Do you know what I mean?
No,
it all felt totally believable in this universe. Like they didn't feel the need to throw a bunch of, high octane action scenes in order to entertain you because the characters are so good. So, Richard, what are your thoughts on the overall look of the movie?
I'm with Brian. I know the lens flare got on people's nerves in Star Trek, the first one, but I liked it. I like the way this one looks too. I love all the colors in the background. I love the kind of overly sleek look of everything. I mean, what's the point of looking into the future if we're not very clean cut, wearing
exactly
leotards and stuff. So no, I love the way those movies look. I think they're distinct, and they look. It sets them apart. I remember thinking that immediately when I saw the first one. I saw the first movie kind of without seeing any trailers or anything. Just kind of went in dark and was just like so surprised and in love with it. So, and a lot of that has to do with the way everything looks. Especially the sets are incredible. The outdoor sets are incredible, especially. It's just very, very good.
Yeah, the Enterprise, even, at different points of the film, it gets destroyed a little bit. It's sleeker at different points. It looks incredible every single time. Most notably, this shot that they use in the first film, I think once. But they use it once or twice in Into Darkness, where they're like Captain Kirk's on the bridge, and he gives a command, and then the camera zooms out to outside the ship, you know what I mean? And then it keeps like a giant crane shot and keeps zooming out until you get the view of the entire ship, all in one shot. I just love the way they seamlessly integrate CG with live action. And a lot of that has to do with the lens flare, Yeah. You really feel like there's a camera in outer space filming these ships, you know what I mean? Yeah, you can see dirt on the lens and all those elements that are so subtle, but they make such a big difference. And Abrams is seriously the king of that. But I love the interior of the Enterprise, especially when the ship was tumbling around. They were running on the walls and the ship was turning upside down and things like that. I thought that was very well done. Awesome. They've really upped the ante in this movie compared to the first one, but not to excess. You know what I mean? They knew the exact boundary that they wanted to take it to.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Kent, and I think that's one of my favorite things about it is how many times we see a sequel that just gets so much bigger that you get it becomes old and somewhat overbearing in how grand it is, and I felt like coming out of this one, I felt like, man, they hit the right note every single time on how to build upon what they did in the first movie without letting it just become so overwhelming that you start to lose focus on the other things that made the film the original film great. It's not just that it's a grand spectacle. It's also that there's great characters and great this case, great villain and whatnot.
Yeah. Let's move on into spoiler territory. How about that? Spoilers coming up right now for Star Trek Into Darkness. So, Brian, and I guess Richard, start with you. What did you think of the reveal?
Of Khan?
Yeah.
I knew it was coming. I really didn't read ahead on it or anything. I knew it was coming right when they said, "What is your name?" and they purposely did that like zoom in with the music.
Right.
At that point, I knew he would be Khan. So yeah, kind of similar to Iron Man 3. Pulled off well. Neat to the storyline. Kind of redoing that Khan character. Benedict Cumberbatch, and obviously J.J. Abrams spent the last year denying that Khan would be involved. So it's a kind of a cool reveal there. Did you know it going in that he would be Khan, Kent?
I had heard rumors, of course. When they showed the poster and everything, everyone was like, okay, that's Khan. But, JJ kept denying it, and what are you going to do until you see it when the director himself is saying no, you know what I mean? But what can he do? He can't say, yeah, it's Khan. He could have maybe. It might have drawn more people to the box office, but who knows? But it's going to be interesting to see what kind of secrets he keeps about Star Wars. So you don't know what to believe with Abrams. Brian, what did you think about Khan?
I thought it was perfect the way that they did that. I'm with you guys. There was you knew all along that it was going to end up being Khan, but I felt like they held that in reserve quite well. The casting for him was perfect. I don't know about you, Kent or Richard, but I'm not nearly as big of a Star Trek fan as I am Star Wars. I grew up on Star Wars, and then Star Trek was kind of ancillary. But Wrath of Khan, the second movie, is in my opinion is science fiction royalty. And so to be able to to play off of that and to take from it, to take inspiration from it at least, and then certainly some plot points as well, while doing justice to the original film and still again making it your own. It was a great stroke of genius, and again shows how great J.J. Abrams is as a filmmaker. And I loved it, and I thought Benedict Cumberbatch was just outstanding. That guy is I can't believe that I'd never heard of him like 2 years ago, and now if he's in a movie, no matter what it, or TV show or whatever, no matter what he's doing, I am going to watch that for the rest of eternity. I mean, he's just so good, and I feel like man, he just brought such this crazy intensity to that role, and I just thought it was spectacular.
Absolutely, man. Like, J.J. Abrams probably saw one episode of Sherlock, and he was like, yep, I think I made my choice. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
they fit so perfectly, so seamlessly into Star Trek.
Well,
it's
and if you
really
remember, he originally cast Benicio del Toro to play that role. And,
oh, wow.
And which, I mean, Benicio del Toro is capable of being a great actor as well, but I felt like with this, at least with Benedict, I felt like there was no one else that could play that and do it the right way. It was just so good. So good.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys see it the way I did. On my point I made earlier, where we get really a lot from every character. I mean, every character is really a major plot device in the movie. I mean, every crew member of the Enterprise, I should say, is. We get hero moments from a lot of characters.
Yeah.
For instance, Scotty, ends up saving the Enterprise basically when he shuts down the other ship's gun system. Anton Yelkin's character Chekhov has a moment where he basically, grabs Kirk before he falls off a cliff, basically.
Sure.
Uhura saves Spock, from his ultimate demise. Bones saves Kirk with his experimenting he was doing with Khan's blood work. So there's so much of that going on in this film, and it was awesome. I loved. What did you guys think about this? I loved when Sulu became captain for, randomly in the middle of the film. That was cool.
I agree. Yeah, it was a cool little moment, and I think that's what's so great about this new franchise is there's not
unpredictable.
There's not an Iron Man, or a Batman or whatever. It's all these different these different guys who all not only bring value to the table, but it's I mean, not to sound super cheesy, but they work as a team, and that's a cool aspect that I don't think you always see. I mean, that's one of the cooler aspects of the Avengers, right? When they kind of figure out how to work together. And that's a big part of this version of Star Trek, and I very much appreciate it. I think that's really cool. I like it a lot.
Definitely. Sulu was cool, but I love the unpredictableness of this franchise. Like the fact that, let's say at the beginning, in the first act of the movie, they demote Captain Kirk to First Officer Kirk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now that we're in spoiler territory, they kill Captain Kirk later in the movie. It's like
Captain Pike.
Nothing is off limits here.
I loved that too. I loved how they just basically took the exact scene from Wrath of Khan and then flipped it on its head and reversed it. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and because Shatner dies in the Star Trek canon, Captain Kirk does later in his years.
Right.
You don't know what you're like. What the heck just happened? But it doesn't make sense because now that doesn't Kirk now have Khan's invincible blood? Now is he invincible?
I don't know. They didn't really establish that, but that could be a factor moving forward of some heightened abilities or something like that.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the bigger action scenes. Specifically the last third act when the Enterprise is tumbling towards Earth. Man, how awesome was that?
Yeah.
The whole Enterprise and the other ship crashing into the ocean. And I love the Enterprise rising out of the ocean in the first act. You know what I mean? It's kind of a great way to cap it. You know, it rising and then falling into the water.
Yeah.
So, what did you think about that whole third act?
I loved
Richard.
it. Sorry, Richard. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. There was a lot I liked in it. I thought it was much better and less clumsy than the Iron Man third act. Even with similar kind of things, right? With the kind of magic serum in the sort of epilogue that could heal them.
Fighting on a rusted train car thing.
Yeah, there was some similarities there. But I still enjoyed it. I thought it was also much shorter than the Iron Man final sequence. Two kind of mini climaxes in one. No, I thought it's just a really tight, really good movie, as we've come to expect from Abrams, and you know, it's just a fun ride. You're fine when it ends. You're completely satisfied, and you don't wish it was any longer, and you certainly don't want it to be any shorter. It's just kind of always in that perfect sweet spot.
Yeah,
I didn't walk out. So
wow.
Watch the end. So that's
wow. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. I love the way that it capped off, and I really dug having an angry Spock in the last 15 minutes. That was perfect. But even just him chasing it with such determination and intensity, chasing him down was really was a moment that kind of you don't usually get from Spock in the Star Trek canon, and it's so it was cool to see him kind of break character and I guess succumb to his humanness in those moments and just be kind of a boss. I thought that was really an excellent way to cap it off. And again, I love the flip flop between Star Trek Into Darkness and Wrath of Khan. I love the flip of the roles there. It's very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you guys want to mention before I give my final thoughts?
No, I'm pretty exhausted on it. Yeah.
Yeah, you go, man.
I just wanted to say, man, this movie was so great. Man, Star Wars is in good hands.
Yes.
So encouraged after seeing this with where Star Wars is going to go. But, man, this franchise, and I wanted to get your guys' opinion on it, this is becoming Star Wars level good. You know what I mean? This is like a great science fiction franchise. You know, somebody's going to have to come in.
Continue with Abrams?
I think Abrams will be a producer for the next one. I'm not sure he'll direct, but I'm not sure it really matters as long as, you know, Abrams is kind of overseeing the whole thing. But man, it was just so great, and I was just so encouraged leaving the theater. I mean, I walked out of one showing and I immediately walked into another. Like, I was just so happy with how the movie turned out. So those are my closing thoughts, unless you guys have anything else to say.
No, I totally agree with you. That was one of the first things I thought walking out was I didn't think that my level of excitement for Star Wars could get any higher, but having gone through that movie, it suddenly is. I just can't wait to see what he's going to do with that material as well.
Yeah, definitely. On that note, you guys want to move on to Weekly Recommends?
Let's do it.
Brian Gill.
Okay, so Star Trek Into Darkness is officially my second favorite movie of the year so far. It is trumped only by a movie I saw, I guess the day before I got to see Star Trek, that I've been wanting to see for a couple of 3 weeks, but it came out right as my son was being born, and so I hadn't been able to get a chance to go to the theater and watch it. But finally got to break away during the afternoon last week. And that movie is Mud, which stars Matthew McConaughey and Reese Witherspoon and a couple of kids that no one's ever heard of. And it's directed and I believe written by Jeff Nichols, who did Take Shelter. It is written and directed by Jeff Nichols. He did Take Shelter a couple of years ago, which is another movie that if our listeners have not seen that, and you guys as well, if you've not seen Take Shelter, you really need to. It's an excellent movie. But anyway, Mud was, almost a perfect drama. It kind of blends Stand By Me with a little bit of A Perfect World, which is a Kevin Costner movie from the early '90s, and a little bit of Beast of the Southern Wild. I felt like in a completely more grounded sense, but I loved it, and it's shocking to me. I texted you guys on the way out and just said I kind of can't believe that in 2013 my favorite movie of the year so far stars Matthew McConaughey and Reese Witherspoon. I would have never imagined that a couple of years ago, but this transformation that McConaughey especially has gone through over the last 2 years has just been totally out of left field. I mean, I just could never have predicted that. But anyway, he's great. The story, the narrative is very simplistic, but Nichols gets so much out of what he's presenting. He clearly has a great understanding and a great respect for the material. It all takes place, on a river town in Arkansas. Anyway, it's a great movie. It's not going to be in theaters much longer, I'm sure. So I would encourage if it's still showing near you to get out and check it out. It's definitely going to be one that I'll bring up again in the future whenever we get to the, our end of year lists and things like that. It's really, really good, and I'd love for people to go check it out.
Richard.
Yeah, mine also is in the McConaughey vein, back-to-back McConaughey.
Whoa.
I'm going to go with a movie from last year called The Paperboy. I really don't know if I liked or hated this movie, but it was just really interesting and really odd and unlike anything I've seen. So I'm going to recommend Lee Daniels' The Paperboy. Nicole Kidman, Matthew McConaughey, Zac Efron, and John Cusack. So there we go.
It's on Netflix, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh.
It's very dark and disturbing, but I guess I liked it. I don't really know.
Okay.
But I've thought about it a lot for the last week, so I recommend it because I like to discuss it with other people.
That's a good one. I wanted to recommend a comedy. It's a Happy Madison comedy, but it doesn't star Adams. It doesn't star Adam Sandler, so it's okay. It's called Grandma's Boy. And it's got a lot of funny moments. It's really, really raunchy in pretty much every way. Pretty much just a throwaway movie. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's got a lot of little funny moments in there, especially with Kevin Nealon and Jason David. What's his name? The guy from Avatar, Brian. He has 3 names. Sorry, he plays the evil genius in Grandma's Boy. So it's a funny movie. Check it out. Don't expect to be blown away, but it's a good waste of an hour and a half, or if you're going to bed and want to be dully entertained by B-roll members of the Happy Madison family, check it out. Grandma's Boy. I had an argument with
Are there 18 members of the Happy Madison family anymore?
They're believe it or not, it is if you consider them a team, it's Kevin James, David Spade, Chris Rock, Adam Sandler, all the great,
Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider, yeah.
The cast of Grown Ups 2, basically.
But
you know what's funny is Rob Schneider is not in Grown Ups 2 because of a scheduling conflict. What did he have going on?
I know, totally. He's got the Animal 2 and the Hot Chick 2, I think. Deuce Bigelow 3,
I mean, is he really going to act like either A, he's too busy, or B, he's too good for the Happy Madison crew?
Look, he was writing the script for the Copy Boy movie, so that's,
30
you got to give
years
him time.
later.
Yeah.
Schneider.
His best role was in Big Daddy when he was the delivery guy.
Yes,
Seriously.
agreed. Big Daddy has been on TV a lot lately and holds up probably better than any other Adam Sandler movie. Really funny movie.
Yeah, it does. It really
Snyder
does.
is legitimately funny.
So my recommend is Big Daddy. Starring Adam Sandler.
The courtroom scene. I mean, if OJ can get away with murder, why can't Sonny have his kid? This guy knows what I'm talking about.
Oh man, you ordered three cheesecake, 3-slice cheesecake. So yeah, that's my recommend is Grandma's Boy and Big Daddy. Brian Gill, where can I find you online, sir?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at bgill12, and my writing for some movie stuff and also just life experiences and whatnot can be found at canbabiesdrinkredbull.com.
Richard.
Find me on the interwebs at richardbarden.com or on the Twitter webs at Richard Barden. Kent, where can I find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Kent Garrison. Email the show if you so choose at madaboutmoviespodcast@gmail.com. Leave us a review on iTunes. Subscribe on iTunes and listen to us on Stitcher on your iOS or Android device. Leave us a review. Leave us a comment. Thanks for listening. Anything else you guys want to mention before we get out of here?
No. Recommend us to your friends.
Yeah, recommend and review.
Give a gift. It's a free episode, guys. Just give a gift. Give the gift of sarcasm to your friends.
Right. Totally.
On that note, until next time, we will see you at the cinema.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
No ship should go down without her captain.
I believe in you, Jim.